maladie sida continue à faire ravage. Il a déjà tué 40,4 millions de monde dans le monde entier. Mais, avec le progrès de la science, maladie ça en bas code jodi. D'après l'Organisation mondiale de la santé, en décembre 2022, il y a 39 millions de monde qui vivent avec sida. Les maladies a été fait commencer, c'était une sentence pour la mort. Jodi sida c'est une maladie chronique, tant que diabète et tension, parce que il y a un remède pour contrôler sida. Médicaments pour sida diminuent quantité virus et niveau activité virus à gagner dans la commune. Si test HIV ou positif, ça pas veut dire ou gen sida, mais ça veut dire ou en route pour développer maladie sida. Si vous prenez un remède régulièrement, le virus devient indétectable et puis il devient intransmissible. En anglais, on dit undetectable equal untransmissible. Ça veut dire you equal you. En créole, il fait indétectable égale intransmissible. So nous-mêmes, nous dit 1 égale 1. Remède a diminué le risque que vous gagnez pour développer maladie sida. Vous n'avez pas qu'à détecter gènes dans le sang. Ça veut dire ou pas qu'à passer gènes dans l'autre monde. Haïtiens, mes frères, vous êtes de l'autre, on nous bloque sida.
Hi, my name is Brenda Lormel Raymond, oncology nurse practitioner, founder and lead consultant for VDI, a healthcare consulting company. In the United States, breast cancer remains a major concern, impacting countless lives. Breast cancer is the second leading cause of death among women, claiming thousands of lives each year. Black women are particularly affected. Today, we want to emphasize the importance of mammogram exams. Breast cancer affects millions of women nationwide, but early detection can save lives. A mammogram is a simple, non-invasive procedure that can detect abnormalities in the breasts before they can be felt. By scheduling regular mammograms, you're taking charge of your health and increasing the chances of early detection, which leads to better healthcare outcomes. We urge all women, especially those over the age of 40 years old, to prioritize getting their mammograms. It's a small investment of time that can have great impact on your health. Let's unite as a community to support and uplift all women in this battle.
How we can incentivize the type of economic development we want to have across Massachusetts, leveraging some of the things that are doing well here, but also ensuring we're investing in places where we know there are gaps. This economic development planning exercise brought us outside of this state house into communities across Massachusetts. I think this is the first time as part of our economic development planning exercise we had a session all in Spanish to try and make sure that we were meeting the needs of our Latino communities and understanding directly from them where they saw opportunities to incentivize economic development activity. We definitely want to put an equity lens on all that we're doing, not just a racial equity lens, but frankly, thinking about geographic gaps. The needs in Boston are different than the needs in Beckett, and how do we think about ensuring all 351 cities and towns across the Commonwealth have access to economic development incentives and programs, and this Mass Leads Act does that. In particular, we're really grateful to have all of you here to be able to work with us to make sure we're sharing information about these economic development activities with a broader audience, and the work that you all are doing in making sure we're communicating with individuals across Massachusetts in languages that are they prefer, that are natural to them. Their first languages is really also part of today's exercise, and we're really grateful for the partnership as we think about the work ahead. I know we have a few programs in particular we want to talk about, but I want to make sure we're highlighting the fact that our Economic Development Leads Act was also informed by much of the formal commissions we have, our Black Empowerment Council, our Latino Empowerment Council, who spoke with us about action areas, where we can make it easier for capital authorizations for programs and like unlocking the economic development opportunities that exist within our smaller, more entrepreneurial businesses that sometimes feel locked out of access to both serving as a vendor for our own state or municipalities or providing us with services that we need. We wanted to make sure we were thinking about healthcare and healthcare impacts as part of our economic development, creating pathways for good economic opportunities. I know Kiame will share with us more about the Physician Pathway Act. And this business also looks at things like micro businesses. One of the things we heard, particularly from our Latino community, is that how we define businesses can make or break their access to capital and information. So really looking at an emphasis on micro businesses. These are 10 employees or less within Massachusetts as a way to grow our economy. We know that most of our businesses are small businesses, and when you start hitting the micro business level, how do we incentivize the type of activity? We'll hear from Deeqo a little bit more about that. But for the most part, I, again, just wanted to thank you all for being here. Make sure that you're aware of the fact that we want to grow all of this economy. We can't afford in Massachusetts to leave anybody on the bench, and being able to talk about this across the Commonwealth is really critical to us.
Thank you so much. Welcome everyone to our second Multicultural Media press event. I'm very excited to have all of you in the room and to kind of like kick it off, as the LG said, with the Economic Development Bill and all these topics that we're going to talk about that we know that impact our communities. Before starting with our great panelists, I wanted to take some time to announce kind of like a website that we are putting in place since today for you, for all the multicultural media outlets or smaller outlets that probably need like easy access to information, something that is simple, a place where you can find all the pictures, all the lives that the governor and the LG do when they are like in Western Mass, in Central Mass, and sometimes I know it's hard to get to those events. So let me share my screen so you all can see this new website. And you can see it, yes.
Before starting with our treatment.
Sorry. We can see here this website where you're gonna start hopefully using, where you can see our own multicultural media list that includes all of your outlets and where they are located and what is the language that they normally offer their services in. And I think this will be key not only for like, you know, you, but also other agencies that will be able to get the information like, oh, I'm doing an event in Worcester. Okay, I'm gonna invite this and this and this outlet. And this is just kind of like making an effort to continue, you know, multiplying the access. So then we have like kind of like the multicultural engagement work that we have done with you in the past, where the governor and the lieutenant governor have been able to like interviews with you. And then we also have, here's what I was talking about like you're gonna be able to click the live stream, download the photos, and then read translated releases that we put together most of the time. Here is kind of like an about of what we do in these press events. And
don't skip over that last one. We're so lucky to have Valentina.
Thank you, Vic. And we're gonna start doing every Thursday what's going on at the State House. And what this is going to be is kind of like a quick narration of what the LG and the governor were able to do during the week. For example, this week the governor was in Springfield, and she talked about the economic development over there at a college. We also had the lieutenant governor. She was here in Roxbury doing a groundbreaking for a building. So it's kind of like just making sure that you guys have everything that's happening, and you will find related articles on your right side where you can have like the press release and more information. But this is kind of like a concise information, so it's easier for you when it comes to reporting, because we are aware of like how sometimes you do so much for us and communicating to our communities. So this is just like a help to make sure that we keep informing and just bring more access. And that's kind of like what I wanted to announce. I hope this is helpful. We're gonna have also a feedback box where you're gonna be able to tell me like, hey Valentina, I would like this outlet to be added to our list, or like, hey Valentina, I would like to do this. And it's just more access, creating more connections between state government like us and you guys. So awesome. Yeah. Is there any questions about that? Yeah.
So, like during COVID, I know that Governor Baker would have these meetings with other governors so they could share best practices. Is this something that our governor and lieutenant governor can share with other governors across the country? Because this seems very creative and unprecedented, forever. And this is very smart. And whose idea was this? Because this is a genius idea.
Our administrator. Thank you, Alberto. I'm sure, we live in Massachusetts, so I'm sure we can, make sure that this website is in everyone's radar. But thank you, and then if you have any more questions about this and how, we can keep our connections, we can talk about that later. But we can start and kick it off with our panel. Delgi was able to, touch on the most important points of what every of our panelists is gonna talk about. But I think I would like to start with Deeqo, if that's okay, to talk about the economic development bill and the work that she's doing. She's our director of small businesses development, and this is huge for the administration, but also for the communities.
Thank you so much for having me here. Thank you, Lieutenant Governor, my colleagues at the panel, Valentina, and everybody else here. My name is Deeqo Jibril. I'm the Director of Small Business Development. I also want to give shout out all the media representation here. Thank you so much for being here. I invited the Somali media, and this is their first time coming to the building. So I want to give them shout out that, this building is your building. When I invited my Somali TV, they asked me if we need an ID to come to this building, and I said, no, you don't need it, just show up. So I'm glad you guys do events like this to be inclusive. My role is to be responsible and to lead the engagement strategy for the Commonwealth small businesses with a focus on equity. Our state, as you know, is lucky to have so many small businesses that employ half of our population, and those small businesses are, immigrant-owned, people of color-owned, veterans-owned, very micro small business. And this administration, thanks to you and the governor, it's my first time creating this role just to focus on micro businesses. And since this role was created, we increased the visibility of the Office of Small Business. We have office hours at the gateway cities. We reached out to partners who are engaged on the ground, ethnic organizations that are helping with small businesses, and the governor and the lieutenant governor and the entire administration recognizes that there is need to better serve our economic development and our immigrant population. That's why we did the listening section throughout the Commonwealth, and we heard loud and clear that people need access to capital. They need access to navigate the system. A lot of businesses start businesses without coming to us. That's why my role is created, and I hope that you guys utilize me, because I am here to be helpful to you, to be able to navigate the resources that need it. If you're starting up a business, what is the legal aspect of your business? How do you promote your business? Someone was asking me earlier, what's the immigration? Do I need to have a residence? Do I need to have a work permit to start a business? So questions like that can come to our office, and particularly my role is to help you navigate that. And we are grateful for a lot of businesses that are here in Massachusetts. We want businesses to start here, grow, and we want them to expand. And when we did the listening sessions, as the Lieutenant Governor mentioned, that we did English and Spanish, and we had great turnout. And people were very excited to be able to include their voices, because a lot of immigrants, like myself, I came from Somalia as a refugee in early 90s. We don't feel that our voices are at the table. So someone who shares your immigrant journey, who shares your struggle and experience, are at the table to advocate for your needs. And I cannot be that voice if I don't have access to you guys, and if you don't reach out to me to let me know what's working, what's not working. The governor's budget, FY25, recommendation would increase the investment of small business technical assistance. When we did the listening section, a lot of people say we need technical assistance. We know what it takes to start a business here, but we don't have the capital to promote our businesses. We don't have the capital to fund our businesses. We don't know, how to do social media. So the governor's FY25 budget will give recommendations to increase $35 million for community development financial institutions, CDFI. Grants like Mass Growth Capital. I know a lot of businesses access those grants throughout the COVID, and also are accessing now. So we will increase grants to small businesses, Mass Growth Capital, Power Business Program, and so many other partners that are on the ground helping small businesses. I know it's only 2 minutes, but I think I went over. Got it.
Thank you, Deeqo.
One quick question. Do you have a website?
The Executive Office of Economic Development have a website, and I also brought my business card, so I won't leave until each one of you get one.
Juan, would you like to continue with the grants in the Economic Development Bill?
Sure. Thank you very much, Valentina. Good morning to everybody. Again, thank you, similar to Deeqo, very appreciative of the invitation this morning to participate. My name is Juan Vega. I'm the Assistant Secretary for Communities and Programs at the Executive Office of Economic Development. Very long name. And my role is primarily responsible for managing a lot of the grant programs in the office, grants that go out to municipalities as well as to nonprofits, and expanding in the area of business as well. And so I just want to highlight a couple. The bill, the Mass Needs Bill, includes, it's very robust. It includes a lot of components. And I think we'll hear a lot about the various components. I wanted to focus on 3. So the bill proposes approximately $1 billion in capital authorization for programs aimed at unlocking local development with targeted investments. And so most notably, this includes more than $620 million in reauthorization for programs that are run through the Community One Stop for Growth, which is our online centralized portal for a lot of communities to come and apply for funding. And the authorizations include expansion or reauthorization of the MassWorks infrastructure program, as well as the Brownfield Redevelopment Fund. And so these programs can be very transformative in communities seeking to leverage private investment and creating jobs. Geographic and demographic are guiding principles during the application evaluation process. I also wanted to, the bill also includes many elements of equity in various sectors. And one of the provisions I wanted to highlight would make it easier for local housing authorities to procure design and installation services to bring high quality, affordable internet to low-income families and individuals that live in those developments. And so it's a tweak, it's a more of an administrative change, but it's going to make it more possible for housing authorities to make major advancements in bringing internet to all, in particularly in our gateway cities. And another important initiative that the administration will be launching later this year is central and tied to our business development efforts. It's going to be a central online portal similar to what we're doing with the Community One Stop. It's going to bring a lot of resources together. And it's going to be focused on assisting all size businesses, including micro businesses. It's going to make it possible for any business looking to establish, expand, or move into Massachusetts with an easy and direct line to get connected to information and resources to support their plans. And we'll certainly be sharing more about that later this year. Thank you.
And as the LG said, every 4 years we do an economic development plan, and this year we have an initiative that is very innovative. There is the Physician Pathways Act. This is to make sure that we are integrating our communities into the workforce, and we can be like a stronger state for it. And I would love Dr. Kiame for you to talk a little bit about that and how that's gonna work.
Thank you, Valentina. Thanks for being here. Good seeing you as always.
For sure.
We used to work in the same city for a few years.
We're teamed up again.
Yes. So I'm Dr. Mahaniah. I'm Undersecretary of Health in the Executive Office of Health and Human Services. And I'm particularly excited about this portion of the Economic Development Bill. So as you know, you've all read, you probably in your own community experience it, that there is really a difficulty with accessing primary care. It's very difficult to get an appointment with a physician, particularly when you're in underserved and disenfranchised area, that's even more difficult. And even if you're in a rural area, it's even more difficult to be able to find a physician. And this Physician Pathway Act, essentially what it does is that if you are a physician from a credentialed medical school in your country, you've worked in your country for at least 1 year, this opens up a pathway for you to be able to come to the U.S. and have your credentials be recognized and be able to work as a physician in a community health center, in a community hospital, in areas that are officially underserved, so that you are able to make a living, contribute to the new society that you've chosen, and obviously are physicians who come from different cultures and societies. So this is a very exciting thing. So prior to being Undersecretary, I was running a health center in Lynn. So I know how difficult it is to recruit people who understand the culture of a particular community, who speak that language fluently. And so this is really a really exciting part. And it's built on a backbone of a system that already works to certify and guarantee the quality and the good education of physicians that are trained in countries abroad. And as a side, my wife is one of those international medical grads who had to go through the whole system. So when I told her about this bill, she said, "Well, you're about 20 years too late." But this is really going to be exciting, and I think it's going to be a game changer, not only for the individuals who are able to go through this process, but also for the communities that will be able to be served.
I got a question. It's very interesting to hear that you have that kind of ideas coming out. But different countries have a different credential for medical practices. How do you qualify? I mean, what a country can for that individual to come in and just get, I don't say a free pass, but kind of differences in different countries, and how do you determine that person is qualified enough to provide services here in the state?
Very good question. So it turns out that already currently in the US we have a system for that. It's called the ECFMG system, where if you are a trained physician, you have to prove that your school was credentialed and is at the level of education in the US. And then you still have to pass 2 exams, 2 national exams. So you still have to do what we call in medicine step 1 and step 2. And so you still have to pass those exams before you can enter this program. So there is already, like I mentioned before, there's already a system by which foreign-trained physicians can come into the system to guarantee, exactly your question, to make sure that the level of knowledge and that the level of expertise is adequate. In addition, in this act, when they work in an underserved area, they have to be supervised. So it'll be 2 years, at least 2 years where they're working under supervision. They'll be working as a physician, but they're working with close supervision to make sure that, because even if you have the theoretical knowledge, even if you know everything, it's different when you're in a different, as you know, the way doctors talk to patients, like where I grew up in the Congo, the way doctors interact with patients in the Congo is very different from the way that people interact. In the US, for instance, in the Congo, you always have your family with you. Like it's never a one-on-one, it's like a 1 on 17, right? And so like you do have to learn those things. So this act does provide the opportunity for qualified candidates to be able to learn under supervision and be able to embrace the American model of healthcare.
when would when would the bill start? I mean, is it now or is it?
It is an economic bill, so we are hoping that this passes in the
Okay.
in the
By the
upcoming
end of the
session.
session, right, should hopefully pass by the end of the session, which will allow all of both the funding, the programs that Juan mentioned, and obviously this opportunity to make sure that we're having access to individuals who have skills. We need them in our workforce, so very innovative, very creative, and will hopefully be part of our opportunity in the next fiscal year.
Because I asked, I have a friend who's a doctor, like say Joe White 20 years ago. He's got a doctor, credential in Vietnam. Come here, have to start all over again. And I just want to know, make sure
And
that's
just,
on the correct information.
Let them know, hopefully this August.
Yeah.
and just before starting with all the questions, I want to really quickly let Eric from our Office of Housing and Livable Communities talk about the efforts that we're doing to build more housing, but also how housing is connected to all the economic development bill. And then we'll open it up for all your questions.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here on behalf of the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities and our Secretary, Ed Augustus. As identified in the Economic Development Plan presently, housing costs are a major inhibitor of economic growth and opportunity in the Commonwealth. And so in addition to the Mass Leads Bill, the administration is looking for every opportunity to unlock economic mobility. And that's why from day one, the governor and lieutenant governor have made solving the state's housing challenges a top priority. The governor established my office, the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities, in June of 2023, with the goal of creating more housing faster and to lower housing costs for all across Massachusetts. That's also why the governor filed the Affordable Homes Act in October, which would represent the largest investment in housing in the state's history. It's a $4.1 billion bond bill that includes 28 policy changes aimed at jump-starting housing production and making Massachusetts more affordable, competitive, and equitable. The Affordable Homes Act will create or preserve nearly 70,000 homes and generate 30,000 jobs over the next 5 years. And all these resources will be distributed so that there's not only diversity among those who benefit from these affordable homes, but also to promote greater diversity within the affordable housing and construction industry. The Affordable Homes Act provides families with a real shot at home ownership as another way to create economic opportunity in the state. EOHLC and its partners are working to open pathways to home ownership and wealth building programs like through the Commonwealth Builder Program and a new home ownership production tax credit program, as well as supporting first-time home buyers through proven programs like Mass Streams. Mass Streams provides first-time home buyers with down payment assistance and other closing cost assistance, and with an average grant of just $33,000, the administrator for that program, Mass Housing Partnership, 76% of those funds that went to households of color. The bill will provide historic investments of $1.6 billion to repair, rehabilitate, and modernize our state's public housing portfolio so that some of our most vulnerable residents can live in safe and healthy homes. The bill will allow for accessory dwelling units as of right so homeowners can convert their garage or basement into a home. What a difference that apartment can make for the young professional just starting out or for the aging homeowner who wants to stay in their home and just needs some extra income. And the Affordable Homes Act does so much more. It creates an Office of Fair Housing to combat housing discrimination. It advances our climate goals by investing in and decarbonizing our public housing and building climate-resilient affordable housing. It includes eviction record sealing, social housing, seasonal communities, permanent supportive housing, all smart policies that will strengthen Massachusetts and make a more equitable home for all.
Thank you, Eric. And LG is a champion for the housing. She's done so much for all of our communities and make sure that this keeps moving.
Critical need in our Commonwealth. The number one thing we hear about is access to housing that's affordable for people who rely on every single day. So housing and economic development are definitely braided together. And I just want to say as we wrap up and offer an opportunity for more questions, this Mass Leads Act, which the majority of the panel has spoken to, is really us talking about how we can close equity gaps. Those are not just words. We are being very intentional and making sure we're not leaving anybody behind, whether that economic development is broad, so that might involve growing access to our existing programs. We have a fair amount of them. Making sure we're tailoring new programs to meet the needs. That could be capital, that can be education and training, that can be workforce. All of that is wrapped up into our economic development needs. We want to make sure when we talk about addressing equity, that we're putting work behind that. So these are action-oriented efforts designed to help people across this Commonwealth, no matter where you live, no matter what your background is. We want economic mobility to be part of our charge. So certainly happy to open it up for questions. Why don't we start there?
Yeah, so Taylor Andre, I have a host of questions for almost everybody. And so my first question is about small businesses. And so I am a small business. I pay $500 a year, just like Gillette. So I'm wondering if we can have something that makes a little bit more sense. If you're a small business, that you pay a small business price versus Gillette paying the same price TaylorMade pays. Is there a way to make access more accessible for small businesses that need to apply for grants? A lot of the grants require a whole host of documents, and not all of those documents are easily accessible for someone who does feel like they can navigate the online portal pretty well. Ms. Jibril, we're about to be best friends.
We follow each other on LinkedIn, so.
Yes. So Julia Mahaniah recently passed a bill in the city of Boston for those that are creating food from home. I'm wondering if that's something that can be expanded statewide. Small business hubs, I would love to see a small business hub. Like, we have all the vacancies downtown, Seaport, Government Center. Is there like a small business hub-ish idea that is being considered where we can have access to the Wi-Fi? And as a parent, if you guys can have daycare, we'd appreciate that as well. Going back to the downtown and the vacancies, how do we make that accessible to small businesses that need space but can't obtain space because rent is what rent is at this time? Using smaller news stations to advocate and to market some of these new programs that are coming out. We need your dollars as well. And what does that look like for some of these new initiatives to be kind of promoted on smaller stations? And Dr. Muhammad, thank you. I'm wondering whether I think that program is absolutely amazing, especially when so many of Americans are going outside the country for healthcare on so many different levels. And I'm wondering if there's a financial assistance piece to help with those fees that they're going to have to take for those 2 exams. And as a real estate agent, Eric, we're about to be the besties as well. So we're seeing that a lot of people are unable to rent properties because of the lead situation and so many homes needing de-leading. Brokers fees, security fees being the same as the rent. So 4 times the rent, it's $12,000 to move into an apartment. And even if you have a Section 8 voucher or some type of housing subsidy, you still have to come to the table with the broker as well as the security fee. As far as ADUs are concerned, and right now ADUs are considered anything that's inside the unit or part of like the carriage house. When we look at our elders, many of them have double lots. And so what does that look like applying an ADU component but to a double lot, or if you have enough square footage to create another property?
Let us maybe try and tackle some of these, okay, before we get further along, because we've got a lot there. So appreciate your interest and your being here. I've taken a few notes, and I'll ask folks on the panel to weigh in on their specific areas for a little bit more context. You know, part of the access to grants is providing technical assistance. Deeqo mentioned some of that. We fund technical assistance for small and micro businesses. By creating that definition of a micro business in particular, it's going to enable access to more of those programs. A lot of that is done regionally with partner organizations. Mass Growth Capital is one of those. It's a quasi that the state funds primarily to help support small and micro businesses. So accessing those grants, we think, can be made easier with that technical assistance component that you mentioned. So critical. Not everybody has the capacity or the understanding of some of that language and how to access it. On the commercial kitchens, very much a local issue that controls that. We're glad Boston's taking that action. We know a number of our gateway cities are looking at similar opportunities to unlock entrepreneurial activities within their particular cities, but it's typically a local building code, and so that's why that action is taken at the local level rather than the state. On some of the issues you mentioned tied to small business hubs, We do have mass workforce boards. That's a regional board that exists in every region of the Commonwealth. Career advice, opportunities for us to get additional workforce and training, help with resumes. The idea of ensuring that small businesses have access, whether it's just getting access to the internet or thinking about how you might be able to play economically, I think that's definitely something we can take back to labor and workforce. And Deeqo, you may have more on that, but we actually have assets on the ground in a lot of different regions. We probably need to communicate better what they do, how they're accessible, and how to use them on the employer side, not just the employee seeking access. I love the downtown incubators. We have a number of those for small businesses as we think about most of the conversation right now is around how to convert commercial space to residential space given the high housing needs, but certainly looking at business incubators. We know we have some of those active in a number of communities, some tied to a specific, maybe it's life sciences, maybe it's tech hub, but opening up more broadly. And then just the smaller news stations. That's why we're here. We definitely want to try and access the work that you're doing to broaden the message and ways, we obviously prefer earned media to paid media, and that's one of the reasons that we're here today is to try and make sure we're not missing markets. And folks on the panel, you had a whole litty there, so I'm glad we're going to be besties, but I tried to capture most of it.
I can take a shot at the business access to resources and understanding the grants. I think the governor, the lieutenant governor, as well as Economic Development Secretary Ron Howe have traveled all corners of the Commonwealth and spoken to a lot of businesses, large and small and micro. And clearly what they've heard is this angst about, I want to start a business, or I want to expand, or I want to do it. I never know, when should I go to Mass Growth Capital, or what can the Small Business Development Center do, and how does that relate to mass growth, and what other resources does the state have? And so this idea of creating this centralized portal, similar to what we did with the Community One Stop, is their instructions to us to figure out a response here. There's a problem, and we recognize that there's a problem in terms of businesses all sizes, particularly small businesses, that get completely lost in the website, get lost in the myriad of information. So our hope is to launch this web portal on mass.gov, where a business with whatever size you are can at least come to a place, ask a question. We're hoping to have navigators sign and have people walk through to try to resolve your issue. That may include grants, doesn't always, but mass development, there's loan guarantees. Sometimes people don't know that that's available. And when there are grants available, that will be shared as well.
But one front door for businesses. That's really
a
true goal of this.
One place.
So you can get what you need, when you need it, where you need it, is our hope as part of this, making things a little bit more efficient. I should just mention really quickly, we also have a component that we didn't talk about today, which are, Massachusetts for the first time in 20 years passed a significant tax bill. That tax bill is going to make us more competitive in terms of how we compete with other states, but it's also going to put more money back in the pockets of individuals. The vast majority of the tax cut is going back to folks who have children and dependents. That is going to increase the amount of resources coming back when you file your taxes. This year is the first time folks are going to see that. A lot of those dollars are going to be spent locally. So it's just another key component to helping grow our economy and hopefully make Massachusetts more affordable, which is a key goal as well.
Lieutenant, I also want to add the language accessibility bill, so you don't have to navigate, resources only in English.
Excellent.
So you have, the most language spoken in our state available to you, whether it's online or in person.
Excellent point, Deeqo.
My name is Emmanuel Paul. I am the founder of the Caribbean Television Network. And thank you so much, Valentina, for your support. One of the problems small businesses have is there are a lot of requirements, especially certification, and some of them they require, like for the small business owners to have legal permanent resident or U.S. citizen, and a lot of immigrants, they are not at this level yet, and they are missing out on some of the contract with the state. And even for the grants, there are a lot of requirements that are not met. Is there any possibility that they can lower the requirement in terms of legal status for state, at least not for federal, so the more immigrant small business can have some part of it? And for Dr. Mahaniah, for the people in the medical field, there are a lot of doctors, nurses, they come with the requirements. Some of them work for, I know doctors in the Asian communities working as CNA for about 10, 20 years, trying to get transfer their credential here. We've done working with CGNFS and other institutions, and the bureaucracy is very terrible. They have to pass 2 exams. One of them is like English exam, which is IELTS. Is there any possibility that there can be something you guys can do to help at least easing the requirements so those professionals, they can get their credential faster?
I'll start on the access for folks depending upon their status. And it's a little tricky because we have a host of resources that come in. Some of the requirements around federal dollars and federal grants that we have coming in to support businesses are different. That's why I think we're really promoting this front door. Let's understand who you are, what your needs are, and how we meet you. How do we meet you with those needs, including the technical assistance pieces. It is taxpayer money, so we need to be judicious in how we use it. That does require some level of accountability, but we also want to unlock that potential. So our hope is between the technical assistance, the dollars that we're able to operate, or guarantees that we're able to operate, we can put people on a pathway to successfully growing a business, starting a business, helping them understand what some of the regulations are that might exist, particularly in an industry. We think about food, we want to have food quality, safety matters. How do we make sure folks understand what that is? It's not impossible to get a ServSafe certification, but how do you do that? We think that's the best way we can help support some of the entrepreneurial, particularly our small and micro businesses who are coming at this as someone who has an idea, but may not necessarily know what all the rules are. So let's understand that regulatory framework, see where we can help push in supports and services, and hopefully be a real partner and ally in growing that business, starting that business, and getting folks started in the right way. And then Dr. Mahaniah, I'll let you speak to the physician piece.
Yes, and also in answer to your question, once the bill gets passed, we still have to put in place the process by which it happens, meaning like what kind of paperwork do you need to file, how do you take the exams, how long can it be, the time between exam 1 and exam 2. So all those issues would still have to be defined and written about whether we'll have financial aid for people who do that and what it's contingent on. So that would still be something that needs to be developed. But in terms of what you're bringing up, I think there is a workforce skills cabinet that is one of the priorities for the administration. And one of their great interests is really to figure out how to best support recredentialing for immigrants, not just for physicians, like you pointed out, but there's all kinds of, there's nurses, there's dialysis aides, there's all these different, and so they are working on that. But you're correct that some of the administrative steps are really complicated. And so one of the hopes that we have with the Workforce Skills Cabinet is to simplify the process for at least for the issues that the state controls, because a lot of those issues are not state controlled, but also to make sure that we have, similar to the way we help people sign up for insurance and the like, to have case managers that can help with the recredentialing.
So just one quick follow-up. At least in the trying to eliminate the English exam, if someone is able to pass the like physician and CNA, like nurses, that's when they speak English, so they should not be able to go to TOEFL or the English test. They might not be able to pass. So I know people who already passed the exam, but they cannot pass the English exam, so they don't have the certification yet.
So that I have to take a pass on because I don't know the answer to that one, particularly for non-physicians.
Yeah, good flag for us. We've heard similar issues with regard to the teacher's test, the MTEL as well. So we want to try and provide language access and also meet standards that we need to. So thank you for that. We'll bring that one back.
Hi, Ivan Goyce from Vega Spanish radio stations. Congratulations. I guess that's the first thing that comes to my mind. Wonderful initiatives, and so many of them. I guess, and I see the listening sessions that you guys are having, which is wonderful to get the information out there. But I think about the, millions of people that don't know about these efforts, right? And, the details, right? It's one thing to announce the process. It's another one, how do I take advantage of it? If I have a small business, if I have a micro business, how do I take access? How do I find out about all the different grants available? How do I find out about the medical options? There's so many, it's all in the details, right? So I guess that's my question is how once this passes, let's hope that it will, how do you actually implement this, and get the detailed information out to the specific businesses?
I think one of the reasons we think it's important to have this business front door is to really try and help people and meet them where they're at. Obviously, we've got a really resilient group of folks who want to start businesses, who want to grow a business. So I don't want to sell anybody short, but it can be difficult to navigate government processes. And that's why this business front door comes to play that can help, one, engage with you as a person one-on-one, or try and understand what your business needs are. We have access to a lot of programs that aren't government related. There are quasis, there are nonprofits that help support the growth of businesses. Sometimes it's creating that partnership. We have CEO roundtables, groups that work on mentoring businesses that are established. We're willing to be a mentor to someone who might be starting a business. We can help make those connections. So I think it's a host of resources that we're hoping to meet folks in a way that, for some folks, it might just be reading the website and having access to it. For others, it might need more of that one-on-one connection with a mentor being part of a CEO roundtable. The idea of the business front door is that you're going to have one portal to go through. It might be able to connect you with the right resources you need. Some people just need capital or access to capital. They've got a great idea. They know how to do it. They've got the workforce behind them, but they can't free up the capital they need to really grow and expand. So depending upon where you fit in the spectrum of needs, we're hoping to at least be a resource. It doesn't mean we can solve it every single time, but we want to make sure folks know that where to go and how to get there.
I hope you continue to work with all of us as resources to get the word out.
That's the goal. You know, the tax packets I mentioned, we'd be happy to get you a one-pager. Folks are going to be filing their taxes this year. We're coming up on the deadlines. We want to make sure we don't leave money on the table. We've got doubling of the earned income tax credit for seniors. We've got this child independent tax credit. These are dollars that come directly back to tax filers. And we want to make sure folks are taking advantage of those programs when they exist. So we'd be happy to put together a one-pager that kind of explains those opportunities for individuals to make sure they're fully availing themselves of those resources. And I know we've missed you over here, so I want to come back.
I would like to congratulate Valentina, first of all, for the initiative, which I find interesting. My question is for Mr. Shupin. Do I pronounce it well?
Shupin.
Okay. You were mentioning earlier progress about housing and what you do for people, to make it affordable around Massachusetts. But housing still remains a big issue in the States, and especially with migrants coming from all over. And you've seen the pictures and images, people everywhere, even sleeping at the airport. And so moving forward, even on the short term, how do you handle that crisis, which remains I think a big issue for the state of Massachusetts, and not just Massachusetts, but it's becoming an issue at the state, at the federal level. So how do you handle that?
Absolutely, and I don't.
I'll start and then you can finish. I want to thank you for that question. Obviously, Massachusetts is a right to shelter state. We've got 7,500 families that right to shelter for families exist here who are currently in shelter. That's 22,000 people, half of whom are children. We've also opened overflow sites for individuals, for families who are still arriving. We don't control the front door in terms of that's federal policy, but while folks are here, we want to make sure they have safe shelter or access to safe shelter if they're a family. We also see this as an opportunity. We worked really closely with the federal government to authorize, to expedite work authorizations. So we've got close to 3,000 individuals who have come here as new arrivals who are now work authorized, and we are connecting those folks to work so that they can get out of shelter. Our goal is not to have people in shelter long term, but to try and access available housing where it exists. And to do that, you need to have a job. We're also working on things like English for speakers of other languages so that we can encourage and put in place practices for folks who want to be able to put themselves in a position to get a better job, to be able to have that English language training skills. It is a challenge. We need help from the federal government. We're continuing to press federal officials to help us with both resources while also pushing on opportunities for more housing in Massachusetts. We've got two problems, an acute one with shelter and needs and people coming here, and plenty of Massachusetts residents struggling with housing, and we also have not built enough housing over the last several decades. So we've got to incentivize the production of more housing, build more and build it faster, as well as take care of folks who need shelter now. And we're trying to do both of those at the current time. And that's certainly what you're reading about and what you're seeing, and we're going to continue to press on both fronts. But we need help with the federal government to help with that shelter crisis, for sure.
And we also have our house and bond bill for this year that I think that's also going to be really helpful when it comes in building housing, renovating housing that we already have in place. So.
That's exactly right. And as the Lieutenant Governor said, there's the acute crisis right now, which is the shelter, but then we need more homes. We need more homes across every income level. And that's why we have the $4 billion, the 20 different policy proposals, things like accessory dwelling units that we estimate could do 5,000 to 10,000 homes over the next 5 years just to allow accessory dwelling units. So those are all these things that we need to do together to address both the short-term and long-term challenges that we face. And this administration, you see Health and Human Services, economic development, housing. I can't tell you this is an all-of-government approach. Who you don't see here is also Labor and Workforce Development, who is attacking this issue along with us with the shelter crisis, because it is about getting people jobs and work authorization. So, I can't, the Lieutenant Governor, the number of meetings that she takes on this every single day to bring us all together to address this challenge, we are trying at every level. But then also, again, appealing to the federal government to say, no, we need your help too. So,
I have Alberto Lulian.
No, just a quick, with housing, affordable housing is great, but generational wealth is kind of built upon home ownership. Have you guys distinguished, you have the acute problem, but most of these folks eventually should be on a pathway to buying a home, passing it down, and creating generational wealth. Do you differentiate that in your strategy?
Absolutely. We take a both-and approach. We know we need to build more affordable rental housing, but exactly as you say, home ownership can be a key to generational wealth. And in the Affordable Homes Act, there's over $200 million for home ownership initiatives alone. I talked about the Mass Streams program, the Commonwealth Builder program, which builds new home ownership opportunities in gateway cities. We're proposing to create a new home ownership production tax credit, again, for the purpose of creating home ownership opportunities, because we do see the gross disparities that we have right now, and this administration is committed to undoing those.
I wanted to, because I didn't hear anything about the work the community health workers are doing with the community, especially with because one of the major problems that we have is accessibility and communication between programs, even within organizations and government. What you're doing here is amazing, because you're speaking with the different departments that can create the solution for these problems. But there's these gaps, the people who are I know that we are forming a lot of community health workers, and it's been proven over and over that it's very successful, the programs with community health workers, cost effective. They do have reach out. We have a lot of very well capacitated, including doctors, is one of the ways that they get introduced into the health system is through the community health worker programs, and start to create opportunities for them to be involved with that. But what I was thinking is why not I haven't heard yet of community health workers in the other areas that you're doing it. Expand that, to specialize, because you're forming all these professionals and getting organized with their own associations nationwide, locally, but there is now a career path that has to be developed, and it can be incredible support to all the programs that we're talking about.
Yeah, we definitely should get you some more information on the pathways that we have. We mentioned one with respect to folks who come here as physicians from another country and how to get them credentialed over. We have programs right now creating pathways for childcare workers, creating pathways for folks who want to work in healthcare fields. not only paying for college. I hope everyone knows anyone over the age of 25 in Massachusetts can go to community college for free as part of Mass Reconnect, with the goal of creating economic mobility and those pathways. We have similar programs in place at high school levels for folks who are younger adults who are looking to have a career pathway. And the Labor and Workforce has apprenticeship programs and workforce training programs in hard to fill positions, whether it's healthcare, CNA, entry level, all the way up. Things like childcare workers, we know we have such a shortage of available childcare slots. A lot of that is tied to having the employees who can do that work. And many of those programs also exist for folks who are in those professions and are being saddled with student debt. So we want to make sure we're taking away college loans to make folks, to put folks into positions they can work in community health centers. We know there are such great needs there. So we can try and sum up some of those programs and make sure. We also have language access executive orders here, so that as those programs are unveiled and available, how do we make sure more people are aware of them, to your point? Because if we're doing the work and folks aren't aware that community college is free, that's not going to help us meet the need.
Yes, and create sustainability with the jobs, because a lot of them, they get the jobs through grants. Yeah. Once the grants run out, they don't have the organization that have other grants. Those folks that they get they go into unemployment without perspective of getting another job, because if like grant like COVID runs out, right? There's a lot of people now they got trained and they got those jobs in the health system, and they are trained in social determinants of health, for example, and now to create this position, I don't really see because I've been talking to different organizations, they're having very hard time relocating those community health workers out of the grants that dried out from COVID.
So we do have past workforce programs. Anyone who's looking for work in those fields, readily available jobs to do that matchmaking. And we can certainly, maybe have some conversations offline to better understand if there's a particular program or a space that there may be gaps. But please know, we want to fulfill our economic development needs through workforce and training and pipelines, and build those careers that are not just about the entry-level position, but the credentialing all the way up, with lots of programs going from CNAs to RNs, and individuals who want to become childcare workers and becoming head teachers. So trying to make sure we're building not just a one and done model, but a pipeline for greater economic mobility. And for folks who are in those roles, we have plenty of job openings, and so we don't want anyone, again, on the bench, whether it's due to someone who wants to start a business or an existing profession they're in. Anything else you want to add? Okay.
And before starting with the questions, I just want to welcome Governor Healey. She had a meeting before, but we are so happy to have her here.
I apologize. I was detained earlier unexpectedly, but I just want to really commend Valentina for her efforts in building out what has been an ongoing dialogue and relationship with all of you. She's done a terrific job, and I'm really, really great. We're really grateful. I also, I'm glad that I wasn't here, because I got to listen in to a lot of this, and you see how incredibly lucky we are as a Commonwealth with our Lieutenant Governor and Kim Driscoll, who she knows so much about so many things, right? And so we're so, so lucky, and I feel very, very lucky to work alongside her. It's also very important, to your point. It's one thing for she and I to get up and talk to you all. It's very important that the people who we entrust to lead, to set policy, to drive outcomes, are in direct dialogue with all of you and the communities that we're counting on you to communicate with, and also that you represent and bring back to us. And so I am grateful to Kiame and Eric and Juan and Deeqo for their contributions today. I think we probably should do more of this. And I think the suggestion about having people at the ready to be out there in the style that Phil has been, we'll do that. I hope you take from this, though, that there is a real genuine commitment. It is ongoing work. It is ongoing work to make sure that we do what we said we want to do, and get the results that we want. Today we talked a lot about economic development, employment, housing, education. These are needs that all residents of the state are confronted with right now. I think it's important too that we recognize there are certain ways in which these things present differently too to communities of color, and you know, we've got more opportunities there. But like I just want you to know that I guess I'll say a couple more things. One is I'm struck by, we have more people in this room than we did when we did this a while ago, and I think it continues to build, and that's what we want to see. The other thing is we really need your help. The message on the taxes, right? That's a good thing, but it's only a good thing if people actually know to apply for it. So that's why we need your help now in getting the word out, you know, to people, whether they're seniors or people with children at home or dependents at home who will benefit right now from the filing. So that's why it's also important we have this constant dialogue. And I want to just end by affirming, you know, we are an administration and a team that is of the view that our strength as a state is our diversity. This state has so much potential. We've got so much economic development, growth, and opportunity ahead of us. The way we get there, I think we believe, is tapping into what has been untapped into for too long. And that's why this is so important, and that's why the work that you heard spoken of today is so important. Selfishly, okay, to us, it's going to make for better economic success and opportunity for our whole state. And in a time when, you know, nationally, there seems to be unfortunate hatred and vitriol and divisiveness and efforts to exploit fears and sensationalize things in ways that are just not helpful and really take us backwards from so much of the progress that has been made, more work to do. We think it's all the more important that we as Massachusetts be really strong together. Really strong together. Government, working with business, working with community, working with the media, working with nonprofits. You know, how do we all work together to get to where we need to be? And that's something that excites each and every one of us every day. We continue to look to you all, in some sense, as spokespeople for your communities to make sure that we're hitting on the right issues, and you'll hold us accountable. But I am incredibly optimistic about our state. I think in this time, nationally, Massachusetts has a chance to succeed like no other state in the country if we do this work and do it together. So thank you, Valentina, for bringing us together.
Maladie sida continue à faire ravage. Li déjà touye 40,4 millions de monde dans le monde entier. Mais, ak progrès la science, maladie ça en bas code jodi a. D'après l'Organisation mondiale de la santé, en décembre 2022, te gen 39 millions de monde qui t'a vive ak sida. Les maladies a te fait commencer, c'était une sentence pour la mort. Jodi a, sida c'est une maladie chronique, tant que diabète ak tension, parce que gen remède pour contrôler sida. Médicament pour sida diminue quantité virus ak niveau activité virus a gagné dans commune. Si test HIV ou positif, ça pas veut dire ou gen sida, mais ça veut dire ou en route pour développer maladie sida. Si vous prenez remède régulièrement, virus a vient indétectable et puis il devient intransmissible. En anglais, on dit undetectable equal untransmissible. Ça veut dire you equal you. En créole, il fait indétectable égale intransmissible. So nous-mêmes nous dit 1 égale 1. Remède yo ap diminuer risque que ou gagné pour développer maladie sida. Yo pas ka détecter gem nan sang. Ça veut dire ou pas ka passer gem nan ba l'autre monde. Haïtiens, mes frères, yon de l'autre, on nous bloquer sida.
Hi, my name is Brenda Lormel Raymond, oncology nurse practitioner, founder and lead consultant for VDI, a healthcare consulting company. In the United States, breast cancer remains a major concern, impacting countless lives. Breast cancer is the second leading cause of death among women, claiming thousands of lives each year. Black women are particularly affected. Today, we want to emphasize the importance of mammogram exams. Breast cancer affects millions of women nationwide, but early detection can save lives. A mammogram is a simple, non-invasive procedure that can detect abnormalities in the breasts before they can be felt. By scheduling regular mammograms, you're taking charge of your health and increasing the chances of early detection, which leads to better healthcare outcomes. We urge all women, especially those over the age of 40 years old, to prioritize getting their mammograms. It's a small investment of time that can have great impact on your health. Let's unite as a community to support and uplift all women in this battle.